name is Oussema Khalfi. I'm currently an architect and BIM Manager at Gondwana Digital Engineering in Tunis, and I attended from 2010 to 2015. My interest in architecture came from my fascination with skyscrapers. When I was 12 years old, I created a city model with buildings and roads using simple materials and clay. It was the first spark of my architectural talent, and architecture became very important to me alongside my love of car design. In 2010, I joined and studied architecture for 6 years, and in 2015, for my thesis project, I worked on the rooftop architecture phenomenon. Back at that time, only one previous graduation work about the subject was done in so I got even more excited to work on something that is original and trendy. It was bizarre and interesting subject to me because we were used as students to create our project on empty sites, not on top of other buildings. So I got huge support from my professors, which I would like to take the opportunity and thank them, Monsieur Monsoufourati and Madame Firdaus Qadi. Thank you very much for believing in my crazy ideas. Since my childhood, I have been fascinated by the American culture, from music to movies to politics, but most of all, I know that the education quality in the US is among the best in the world, and that's where I want to continue my education and work eventually. So I was looking for opportunities, and I found out about the Fulbright scholarship from two Fulbright alumni from actually, Mr. Ihab Germazi and Mr. Mehdi Fela, and I had the opportunity to meet and talk with them about the program. I actually applied for the Fulbright twice. The first time I got to the interview stage of the application, but unfortunately I didn't get it. The reason why I'm talking about this is because it was a big moment in my life where I had to take a bold decision to get what I want. Of course, I felt super sad and hopeless when I didn't get the scholarship, but then I decided to look into the areas where I failed my application and try to work hard on improving it so I can apply again the next cycle. The secret move is to be honest with yourself and self-assess your experience and target weak points. The lack of traveling abroad and being socially inactive was one of the main areas that I wanted to develop. So I took a big decision, which was to postpone my professional internship final review to get the National Diploma of Architect by a year and embark on an adventure filled with volunteering work and traveling. Honestly, it was one of the best decisions I ever took because the amount of growth that I've reached was enormous, I would say. I had the opportunity to participate in international conferences like Terra Lyon in France, which was about earth and architecture, and I joined as a volunteer the Interference Light Art Festival, where I had the opportunity to be a site guide, assistant for artists, and an info point guide, where I welcome and assist visitors. The most important part for me was to develop my cultural exchange skills and to represent and share the culture of my country with foreigners. We also went to Germany for the Licht Campus Days, where we had the opportunity to show, represent, and exchange about our Tunisian experience in front of the international community. After my crazy extracurricular adventure, I reapplied again for the Fulbright program, and I thankfully got the scholarship to pursue the education and the career of my dream. And for the first time, I felt more complete, and my experience was balanced between curricular and extracurricular activities. Looking for a master's program that aligns with your studies objectives in the US can be an overwhelming experience because of all the diversity and interesting routes that one can take. There are more than 1,800 architecture-related programs offered by more than 800 institutions. So the tip here is to stay focused on your major goal and try to find the best program that suits your overall objectives. For example, you won't find a master's degree entitled Rooftop Architecture with Masters, but you can find a program that is oriented towards the bigger theme, where rooftop architecture can be included in things like sustainable design and environmental studies, and then you can carve your way in and tweak your master's program by taking advantage of the freedom offered by certain classes like the elective classes or thesis classes. So make sure to take your time and find the right program, it's worth it. And that's why the Temple University Master of Architecture and Environmental Design program was one of my choices, and I ended up going because I felt it was the best program that meets my needs and expectations. Another important factor about studying abroad generally is that In order for you as a student to progress and amplify, you gotta allow some flexibility in your train of thoughts and expect your initial goals to either widen and grow or completely change, which is pretty normal and common. For example, I went to my program at Temple with the goal of becoming a rooftop architecture expert somehow. But I ended up getting interested in more fields like healthcare design and building information modeling technologies, and realizing that a career goal should be more complicated and have several nuances to it for it to be more interesting and always up to date. So I was strengthening my knowledge and sharpening my skills in architecture, environmental design, healthcare design, and sustainability. The secret is to behave like a puzzle where you can latch piece by piece everything you learned until you get a sophisticated image of your achieved knowledge and who you are as a student. You know, what I admire the most about the American academic environment is that it is built around the idea of never being afraid to ask the question and question everything. Being critical about others' work, existing systems is the key to evolution and overall improvement. It's a sharpener for your analytical reflexes and a booster to your sense of confidence, so don't be afraid to ask the question, and also it's okay to say you don't know. An example of my work was this design project, and it was a clinical complex of 4 different healthcare clinics. It was dedicated to addressing the complexity of healthcare design. So the key questions that I was asking were, why do we design hospitals and healthcare facilities like we do? Why when I visit a hospital emergency room I feel miserable as a patient or a family member? Why medical staff burnout phenomenon is a thing? And how can architecture and design help mitigate this problem? Especially today with the coronavirus pandemic, these questions became more and more serious. For instance, you find the medical staff work and live in the hospital for very long periods. So hospital became a second home to everyone in, but without having the necessary architectural elements for it to be called home. So my design solution was to investigate the existing design practices and mindset associated with healthcare architecture and propose some kind of an alternative concept that improve the healthcare experience for the patients, medical staff, and the community. And here the concept of a clinic becomes open to other architectural add-ons that you don't typically see in healthcare buildings like retreat spaces, gym, relaxation lounges, private gardens, urban farms and greenhouses, etc., etc. But most importantly, the project addresses the sustainability questions on an environmental level, economic level, and social equity level. And it provides a healthier interior and exterior environment for the building occupants and the community in general. Another achievement was my participation in the HCD's Terrace Charrette Design Competition as a member of Temple University students team led by my studio professor, Mr. Ulysses Sean Vance. This 48-hour competition was part of the HCD Healthcare Design, where the biggest healthcare design companies and design firms meet, exchange knowledge, present the latest design technologies and products related to the healthcare architecture, and debate about the healthcare industry challenges. It was a very interesting opportunity for me because we were among the top 4 teams chosen from the entire USA Master's program to participate. And what I liked the most about this competition is the open environment where the 4 teams could exchange knowledge and inspire each other despite being in competing mode. A very important aspect that you need to keep in mind while you are studying in the US, especially if you are participating as an exchange student, is that extracurricular activities and cultural events matter as much as your classes. It is very important to stay in touch with the outside world and expand your knowledge beyond academia. For example, I was elected as the outreach coordinator for the Temple University chapter of the American Institute of Architecture students, and I served a 1-year term, and I had the opportunity to meet a lot of students, make friends faster, expand other skills like my communication capabilities, and participate in several events in different cities. Another example would be my activities with the FULBRIGHT program, where I was an ambassador of my country, Tunisia, and I shared my culture whenever I can with Americans and other Fulbrighters from all over the world, and I learned a lot from them too. And I would like to end this chapter by talking about my favorite work so far, which is my thesis project about rooftop architecture and how roofs can be transformed into sites for vertical urban sprawl within already existing urban areas. During the research part, I was exploring how can we redesign the city to become a multi-layered, sustainable, and resilient organism through roof extensions. Then in my studio design project, the idea evolved and become a particular city that is specific to the urban context of Philadelphia. When I worked on the subject, I only tackled the architectural aspect more than anything. And then when I went back to work on the subject in a temple, I decided to explore the idea on a massive urban scale and see the implication of the theory from many angles, especially the relationships between the historical support buildings and the new futuristic architecture, the social structural complexity of the community where the design would emerge, and like the regulatory implications that needs to be addressed for the idea to become plausible and feasible. This project is very dear to my heart because this is the puzzle that I was talking about previously. In this project, I see the results of all my hard work of learning about design and architecture since I started in I see the skills of graphical representation and diagramming that I acquired from years of working with Photoshop, and the modeling complexity that I worked hard to learn and master in Revit and BIM. I see the culmination of all the research work, its evolution and its maturity, and I see everything that I'm interested in merged in a very beautiful way. I would say this project represents me, so I'm very, very proud of it. I'm also so happy that this project got the attention of the famous Architect magazine. They interviewed me to learn more about my experience, especially that I worked on my final project during the worst period of the pandemic in the US, where everything got shut down. In the summer of 2019, I got a lifetime opportunity to work as an architectural intern at Stantec, which is a top 10 international architecture and engineering firm. I have learned a lot during a short period of time, especially about healthcare design, where I worked on major hospital projects in the US and learned about the implementation of BIM technologies in the production process and documentation. I got also introduced to new subjects such as generative design and dynamo scripting. For instance, we worked on this interesting project where we were exploring how we can generate a facade screening system design that is adaptable to certain data through dynamo coding. But most importantly, I got exposed to the professional world of architecture, where teamwork and team member synergy is essential to advance, to grow exponentially, and also to achieve results faster. The key tips to get this kind of opportunity, I would say, first, work hard on your self-branding. These companies are not only looking for sophisticated skills, but also personalities and uniqueness. So working on your storyline, your portfolio, and your design identity is important. You should ask what makes you a better choice than others competing with you for the same position. Another important tip is to participate in career fairs that are organized by your institution. In these career fairs, architecture firms, companies, and even government institutions come to represent their work and portfolio to students. So this is where my first tip would come handy, because these companies will meet a lot of potential candidates. So being remarkable would definitely grant you more options. Last but not least, firm tours, opportunities, conferences are a great way to build professional relations. For instance, when I was the outreach coordinator for AIS Temple, we organized firm tours where we take students to tour a architectural firm and meet the people working there. So we advise them to take portfolios and resumes and give them to the firms, because every opportunity counts. In conclusion, I would say my experience in the US was everything I wanted and more. I am very, very glad that my journey shows that hard work pays off no matter where you come from. I graduated at the top of my program at Temple, which granted me several awards like the Henry Adams Medal from the American Institute of Architects, the Architecture Program Memorial Award from Taylor School of Art and Architecture, the 2020 Graduate Architecture Award from Temple University, and I got an invitation to be a lifelong member of the Tau Sigma Delta Honor Society in Architecture and Allied Arts. I would like to end by thanking everyone who helped me achieve the best version of myself, my Inno professors, my Temple professors, the Fulbright program, my team at Stantec, my family and friends. Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me to this event, and I hope my experience and my tips would inspire and motivate more students to achieve their goals. Just remember to believe in yourself in every step.